The National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons has confirmed receiving the cache of illicit weapons, including 844 rifles and 112,500 live ammunition seized by the Nigeria Customs Service in Port Harcourt. National Coordinator of the Center, DIG Johnson Babatunde Kukumo, commended the efforts of the Nigerian Customs in intercepting the illicit arms and ammunition. Kukumo said the seizure was a testament to the unwavering contributions of the NCS to protect the country from the dangers posed by illicit arms. He says the center will ensure that the weapons are appropriately documented and destroyed to prevent them from posing a threat to our society.
Well, let's bring in defense and security expert and the chief executive officer of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, Dr. Kabir Adamu. Dr. Adamu, good to see you and thanks for your time. A clear and present danger upon us. Once we were told about the Maghreb and another time we were told about small and light weapons coming from Libya. What exactly would you say this is about?
Thank you, Suleiman and Ngozi. Well, the weapons, it appears, at least based on the reports we're hearing, may have emanated from Turkey. And this is not the first time weapons are smuggled into the country from Turkey. If you recall, a few years ago, there was a similar container of such weapons that emanated from Turkey. So I think if we had looked into our history and to take in lessons from that experience, perhaps we would have put in place measures to prevent the smuggling and importation of such, contraband, and especially small and light arms in the manner that they are being brought into the country at the moment. But having said that, I think the especially intelligence unit of the Nigerian Customs deserves commendation for having picked up this, and then of course for the seizure that led to the announcement by the Customs Controller General. What follows, of course, is the work that will be done by the center. I'm not sure what it would do with it, if it's going to destroy it in an era where such weapons are actually in need by the country. It brings to fore a lot of issues. As you're aware, states have created vigilantes, and vigilantes are in need of such weapons. So the rationale of destroying such weapons, to me, does not even arise. But I guess that's what the center would do at this moment. Again, it's an indication of the porosity of our borders.
Yes, indeed. And let me take you back to the reference you made about, a cache of weapons seized, in similar circumstances some years back. We didn't really hear much about those weapons. How concerned are you that this might just go the same way? And secondly, the House member actually blames the military and the communities for the rising spate of terrorism in the Northeast. He says there's complacency on the part of security forces.
Yes, I agree with him that there is complacency. Where I do not agree with him is to put that blame on the military. Like I would always say, there are 29 ministries, departments, and agencies that have responsibility for security. While the one with the most firepower is the military, the one for civilian protection is not the military. The police, more than any other agency, has more responsibility for internal security. And so in matters like this, it is a shared responsibility. And I'm hoping that as the House of Rep and as a representative of the people, he realizes that, so that the blame is actually put squarely on those who are responsible. Having said that, community protection or public protection, as the case may be, is a responsibility of government. And in this instance, both the federal government and the state government, and to an extent the local government, all have shared responsibility. There are two principal documents that we have in the country that we use for managing the terrorism challenge, and that is the National Counterterrorism Strategy and then the Countering Violent Extremism Framework. Now, those two documents have shared responsibility for virtually everyone within society, including the members of the House of Representatives, our traditional rulers, market associations, journalists. So point I'm trying to make is that it's a shared responsibility, and it would be unfair to single out one element, which is the military, and give it that responsibility.
You know, looking at what we're dealing with now, we're excited that this caught the eye of the Nigerian customs. But again, if you look at it deeply, one wonders how many may have permeated our system and in our society. What else do you think we'll be doing as a nation to ensure that this is actually cleared off our communities?
We need that center for the mopping up of small arms and light weapons to be elevated to a commission with full powers to practice and carry out its mandate. The original idea of those who initiated the creation of that center was for it to be a commission. And in fact, that is what the ECOWAS as a body also recommended to all its member states. I think Nigeria at the moment is the only country in the sub-region that does not have such a commission. All we have is that center. And so I think the whole of government, including the executive arm, the legislative arm, so should come together and address the challenges that are preventing that center from becoming autonomous and independent and carrying out its responsibility. We have, and I want to emphasize this, an existential challenge. The small arms and light weapons that are in circulation in Nigeria are an existential challenge to us. And we're kidding around it by not making this body an independent one with all the powers of a commission to allow it to carry out its mandate by mopping up the small arms and light weapons. The disjointed manner we're going about trying to mop up these weapons, it's a threat to us, and it needs to be addressed quickly. Again, I want to emphasize it is a responsibility for both the legislative arm of government and the executive arm of government to come together and make sure that we have such a commission.
Right, so we're getting reassurances from the DIG, that's the National Coordinator of the Center, that these weapons will be appropriately documented and destroyed to prevent them from posing a threat to our society. Do you support the idea of destroying these weapons, or could they be, put to use by the country, especially in a situation where every now and again, we hear that our military are not as equipped, to fight these terrorists?
These are they are pump action rifles, from what I can see. I don't know if there are other, more sophisticated weapons with perhaps either submachine or machine gun capabilities. What I saw, at least from the pictures I've seen and the videos, they are pump action rifles. And I think we can put them to use once we document them. And there are several other processes that the mandate of the center can achieve after documenting them, making sure their serial numbers are well captured. I think they can be put to use, especially at the state level, where we have vigilantes that are confronting enemies of the state that are armed with AK-47 and other more sophisticated, automated weapons. This can go a long way towards, even if they can't confront them with these categories of rifles, but at least they can guard certain elements of our public, space. Without necessarily putting themselves to danger in the manner that they are putting themselves now. So I hope that this type of considerations will be made. But there are so many other things that need to be done. You can't just hand over weapons to vigilantes. Their training has to be enhanced. The manner they are being trained at the moment is largely insufficient. They also need to, the issue of where they are going to keep and store these weapons is another issue. Most of these state-level vigilantes don't even have armories, as it were. So that's another issue. But let's start that conversation and let the federal government have open conversations with the governors around the gaps that exist with regards to the creation of these vigilantes, address these gaps, and then I think we can, instead of destroying these weapons, use them for that purpose. But just to be clear, the state at which these vigilantes are now, they are not at a stage where we can hand over weapons to them, but they need the weapons. And if we address that, the several issues that they are confronted with, then we can go ahead to issue such weapons to them, because the public space is porous. And these bandits, a lecturer was killed in just a few days ago, and his children are in the hands of the bandits. It's painful, and things like this can reduce, even if they don't eliminate the dastardly acts of these bandits.
Well, Dr. Adamu, let's see if we can close on this. So, first it started with Jamaatul Ahl Sunnah Fil Dawat Jihad, and of course, then pretty much later you got to see the Ansarul Muslim. You have so many non-state actors. Should the conversation be extended to openly asking these, many groups to willingly bring up these arms to the government? Now we're talking about another amnesty. Should it be brought to the table before these non-state actors?
So Suleiman, if we go to the northeast, there is an interesting policy or framework that the Borno state government is pursuing called the Borno model for peace building and sustainable security. It was introduced, I think, in August 2021. And so far, at least according to records, about 160,000 members of the two major groups, that's the Jamaatul Ahl Sunnah Lil Dawat wal Jihad and that of the Islamic State in West Africa province, as well as their family members and others who have been captured within the spaces where these two groups operate, have surrendered to the Borno state government and to the federal government by extension. So if for all intents and purposes that model is succeeding, if 160,000 can surrender, then there's no parameters that you use that you won't comment such a model. So it's a model that I think needs closer examination, and perhaps that can be improved upon. I do not think it's fair to leave a state government to deal with such a huge number. That's why sometimes you see agitations in the IDP camps, because the numbers are huge and no one state government cannot just handle it alone. So I think closer collaboration between the federal government, looking closely at the Borno model, seeing ways to enhance that model. Of course, our development partners, the UN, especially the UNDP, has supported actively the Borno state model, and several other development partners have also done the same thing. But like I said, there are gaps, especially with regards to the profiling of those who surrender, where their weapons are, whether they've turned in the weapons or they've hidden them in the forest, like the case is. And then, of course, what happens after they've surrendered? Do we have a de-radicalization or counter-radicalization component that is effective? So far, Operation Safe Corridor has not been, able to accommodate such a huge number. So there is a lot really that needs to be discussed. But point I'm trying to make is that model is working, and it can be, extended to other parts of the country. As an example, the Northwest, where you have such a huge challenge. Perhaps one of the follow-ups from the Northwest Peace and Security Conference is the creation of a similar model that would, even though the challenges are different, but it's the same issue, non-state armed groups. And so looking at that model, how can we tweak it to suit the circumstances in that? And the interesting thing, if I will close quickly, is that if you look at the Renewed Hope agenda, it speaks about developing a framework for addressing security challenges across the 6 geopolitical zones. Right. So this is an opportunity really to look at that model and see how it can be extended to other parts of the country.
All right, very well said. Dr. Kabir Adamu is defense and security expert. As always, joining us on Newsnight. Thank you very much.